Armie Hammer will no longer be co-starring alongside Jennifer Lopez in a movie called Shotgun Wedding that was just supposed to start shooting now. This is after there's a report for the weekends that Armie allegedly wrote sexually graphic fantasies to summon and direct messages like rape, fantasies, BDSM and cannibalism. Yeah, and he also follows certain hashtags like shibari, which is Japanese rope bondage, and follows photographer fetish. Deluxe Armie has released a statement about why he's dropping out of the JLO movie. He says, I'm not responding to these BS claims, but in light of the vicious and spurious online attacks against me, I cannot in good conscience now leave my children for 4 months to shoot a film in Dominican Republic. Lionsgate is supporting me in this and I'm grateful to them for that. Amir. This is a interesting one, yeah. What are your initial thoughts? It is, and I read some of the messages, and it is quite disturbing and quite graphic, and something that stood out to me was one of his ex-girlfriends tweeted Jessica Enrique. She's tweeted this on Monday, and it really stuck with me. She said, if you are still questioning whether or not those Armie camera DMs are real, and they are, maybe you should start questioning why we live in a culture willing to give abusers the benefit of the doubt instead of victims, and because it's not just talking about fetishes, it's talking about rape in some of those DMs, this time with chopping off a woman's head. If she tells his wife, it's very graphic of very disturbing things, and that sort of really struck me and stayed with me. There is no question in my mind that he was fired from this movie, zero question. This was JLO not wanting any of this in her, any part of her future moving forward, even if it blows over, it's done. She wants no part of this, and it happened fast and they let him spin it. But yeah. It's a wild story in the sense that there's no evidence that he's done any of this stuff in real life, right? This is all based on what he wrote. Nobody is saying that he did this stuff in real life. However, what he did say is so grotesque and so shocking that you can't help but question what kind of person he is, and after you sort of go through those things, if they are real, and listen, he called it BS, and what we've learned is that the vast majority of times when a celebrity comes out and calls a story about them BS, it's usually true or there's some truth to it, whether these are real DMs or not. But there's no question in my mind that he did not willingly walk away from that movie. He was flat out fired. And then there's that piece as well about when he was being interviewed for the film Rebecca, and they said, who would your dream dinner guest be? And he had said, Marquis de Sade, which is that 18th century philosopher who is the one that inspired the term sadist. And who also speaks about all these violent sexual fantasies, and he didn't when he was asked. He gave no explanation, and so that sort of ties into all of this and makes you wonder, I don't know, it's all quite good to me, and it was a lot, it was pretty. There should be some trigger warnings before you read those DMs. Yeah, Code says the kennel stuff is the most disturbing thing. I've read Ireland says he should be fired. Furthermore, he shouldn't work again. He does need to respond to this. Jean says, don't remove him, accuses that is terrible. What? He did murder, says allegations thus far. Yeah. I think this is one of these stories that this is the first piece to it. I'm almost talking about this, I don't think this story is over. So that's the thing. When I just saw, okay, he typed this stuff. Okay, fine, and the root as a PR, it's absolutely a private company's decision to decide to get rid of them. Yeah. Initially, when I was okay, he might have these fantasies, he might have written this stuff, but yeah, there's no criminal offenses here, but it's absolutely a private company's right to say, hey, we don't want to associate with someone that might be writing this kind of stuff. But no, I don't. That's the thing. Like you said, Mirror House X just came out. I don't think this is the end of the story. I think we're getting a lot more information. So this is the starting point of this. Yeah, and I think that there's some sort of there's a little bit, but there's not a lot of wiggle room. I understand that these were DMS and they were private conversations, but had Armie Hammer put everything that he allegedly said in those DMS into a poem and posted that poem to Twitter, people would still not want to work with them, right? But I think it's a bit different, that these are vectors of DM. Like private conversations, like you didn't put this up publicly. I'm not like condoning what he did, but it is a private conversation. If the other party was okay with having that conversation, then he's allowed to have that conversation. It's not a criminal act, but yeah. Once again, a private company is allowed to not want to work with him either. Yeah, you're allowed to not want to hang out and work with somebody and pay somebody. You know, a substantial amount of money who you know gets off on that. Yeah, exactly.